Yeah, so Tuesday, changing things up a little bit this week, which is always nice. Um, it is the last week of July. I can't believe it. I'm a little bit surprised. I know I keep saying that, but honestly, the way time goes by and we feel like, oh, it's another day, but those days add up and suddenly boom, you're done a month. And August is around the corner. So who knew? I'm looking forward to the birthdays coming up in August. I love birthdays, so I get super excited, even though they're not my own. So, things to celebrate, right? Why not? But yeah, so July has been lovely. Talking about happiness. Who doesn't get happy talking about happiness, right? um, it's been an interesting discussion. I hope, like I mentioned last week, you guys had the chance to sort of ponder over the different stages that we chatted about. Happiness from material objects, from boosting our egos, service, providing a service to others, and then that final, like, ultimate happiness, and whatever each of those stages meant to you guys. And then, for me, as I was thinking about this coming week, I realized, oh, there's another week in July. I didn't cover all four weeks. So how do you kind of top ultimate happiness? And I kind of had a little bit of luck on the weekend, and I came across this rather cool term, and I thought I need to share this with you guys, and I need to, I wanted to talk about it. So the word is called Sonder, or Sonder. I think it's Sonder, if I'm not mistaken. And it's actually not a, how would you say, normal term that we use in our day-to-day language. It's actually part of what's called the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows by John Koenig. And what this dictionary is that it comes up with, or it's filled with terms that describe emotions slash feelings that we all experience, but there's no actual word for it. And Sonder was really cool because it really speaks to the idea that other people have vivid and rich lives and have experiences and go through complex things just like we do. And the definition of it was actually really beautiful, and I wanted to share it with you guys, and then just see what you guys think of it. So Saunders' definition is the realization that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own, populated with their own ambitions, friends, routines, worries, and inherited craziness. An epic story that continues invisibly around you like an anthill sprawling deep underground, with elaborate passageways to thousands of other lives that you'll never know existed, in which you might appear only once as an extra sipping coffee in the background, as a blur of traffic passing on the highway, as a lighted window at dusk. And to me, ooh, excuse me, got emotional there. But to me, that realization, or that idea that, oh, it's not just about me and my perspective. It's about how we all live life and we all experience things, and we're all in our own, how would you say, maybe little bubble of perspective and of life. And we're all kind of traveling together, in masses, all in our own little bubbles. And that concept really related to happiness in my mind, because when we think about happiness, usually we think of it as or from the perspective of yourself, as how am I going to be happy? And then even through service to others, that idea of how do I provide a service to somebody else to make myself happy. And do you guys remember we were thinking, like, okay, well, where's the base of that coming from? Is it really, just to make yourself happy selfishly? Or is it to do the greater good and it's not just about you? That kind of built out into this term of Sonder, where, we're all living in our own perspectives. We see things from our own perspective, our own, the things that we've gone through, the things that we've been taught, all of that creates our worldview of yourself and of what you see around you. And I was thinking, when you're seeing things only from that perspective, we end up creating our own life blocks, or life barriers, because those are based on just what we see, what we think, and what we've experienced. And so then we end up rotating on this like little track of life where we're just recycling perspectives and views and things. And so if we have old trauma or old wounds, things that we've not been happy with, we just keep recycling our perspective, and we never really come out of that circle, or cycle. Our coping mechanisms and all of that are things that we've learned and we hold on to. And if we don't get a different perspective or open ourselves up to a different perspective, we can never break free from that cycle and from that bubble. And happiness is very much tied into that. Maybe for somebody who is always thinking, but like, I want that next thing, and that kind of concept, let's say that's their cycle of thinking, always goal oriented. And when they're constantly trying to reach that goal, they will stay in that cycle of, I didn't reach it yet, I'm not happy. And if they don't get a break in that, have somebody else come in and kind of point it out, or say like, why don't you try it this way? Why don't you look at it this way? Just to change that cycle of thinking is very challenging to get out of it. And your happiness or that person's happiness either may not really appear, may take much longer because it's harder for you to break out of your own thought cycle. And it's just that concept of opening yourself up, opening your mind up, and connecting with other people and understanding things from other people's perspectives, coming out of that bubble and being able to stand in a more neutral ground, if that makes sense. Neutral as in the sense of not seeing things from your own perspective, just understanding there are many perspectives. And things constantly change. Things are constantly shifting and moving around. And perhaps our perspective also needs to change and shift and move. Sometimes having a very rigid view of things it's hard when life is moving around you, but your perspective stays in one way and you're not changing with the times, so to speak. You will very much experience discomfort and unhappiness. And that word, Sonder, just kickstarted all of those thoughts. That Sonder's basically saying, just understand things from another person's perspective, be open-minded, and be flexible. And that will inevitably bring you a lot less stress and a lot more space for yourself. I think that's the thing. Giving yourself that space to feel whatever you want to feel, to think whatever you want to think, and not be so rigid and stuck in sort of that bubble that we've created for ourselves. But yeah, that was definitely something that I think has been a running theme, I think, throughout the weeks. But that word just kickstarted in my head, and I was like, oh, that's so true. Because happiness, we always talk about it from one perspective, but if we're looking at it from multiple perspectives and multiple people's perspectives, it makes it much more multifaceted and much easier to connect to. At least that's what went on in my head. but I'd love to hear what you guys think of it. Please refute or please agree, whatever you have to say. But yeah, what do you guys think about Sonder? Let me know if you want me to reread that definition. I'd be happy to. Sonder is really speaking to us being interconnected with one another rather than existing in little bubbles that move together. And speaking to that sprawling underground anthill. We are all very much intertwined. It just might not be very obvious at the start. I absolutely love that. And that's brilliant, Sophia. I really appreciate that story too. It really highlights, though, again, that if you're not in the present moment and you don't essentially feel that other person's energy even, who knows what you're missing out on, right? There's so much in the world. There's so much going on. There's so many things, even in an interaction, right? If, let's say you and I were face to face, there's so many little nuances and so much information that you would be giving me, through your micro expressions, through your body language, all of it. But if I don't pick up on it, you've missed basically half the conversation, right? And it's 100%. And you also get to know a lot more about yourself too. You start to pick up on, or you're more mindful of the internal processes that are happening in you as you're observing outside. And that also is something that we don't pay much attention to. Again, because we're so distracted, we're worrying about this, that, and everything else, but you don't see what is happening inside you. And kind of relating this outside of work and a bit more to things like anxiety, depression, etc. A lot of times we're not in sync with ourselves. And perhaps when you get hit with an attack, many people are so confused as to, I don't even know what triggered that. I don't know why I'm feeling this way. A lot of times we have the answers to our own questions. We just need to slow it down, pay attention, and you see a lot of the story that's happening inside. And it's scary. I completely acknowledge that. And it's not an easy process to do at all. But you get a wealth of knowledge. Like Sophia was saying, when you're reading other people, you can read yourself equally as strongly. And it can be very valuable when you're having those interactions with other people. You need to know yourself, and you need to know how you're going to react, how you present yourself, etc. And that really changes dynamics, more so with the dynamic with yourself, kind of relating back to happiness. Happiness is something that kind of comes from within, right? And if you don't have that base and that understanding, you're constantly searching for that happiness without having, kind of knowing what you actually want, what makes you happy. Maybe you are looking for happiness under a goal, or under maybe, when you get this or get that. But really, what makes you happy is just 5 minutes of quiet, or 5 minutes just with yourself. And it really has nothing to do with anything else. But if you haven't paid attention to you and looked inside, you'll never know. I completely agree with you, Emilbury. That's absolutely right. And why would we rush things, right? Because there's, like we were speaking before, there's that process from stage 1 to stage 2. Like you hit the stages, but what about the in between? There's so much, right, that you will experience. Like the couple that you were speaking of in the example, you see the end goal of them being happy together, but what about all of the arguments? What about all the disagreements, all the ups and all the downs that made them grow together, grow individually, and come to that end goal? That process is so important. That's like us saying, I'm going from Toronto to Montreal, but the road is missing. So, like, well, how are you expected to get there? Yes, there's planes. I get that. Let's just say we're driving a car. You'd never be able to really get there, and it would take forever. And how boring. right? That journey is what makes us grow as humans, makes us stronger, makes us look within, and helps us maybe become better, and make us even realize, oh, this, I don't really cope well with stress, let's say. Let me figure out my coping mechanisms. Something's wrong. I need to fix it. And in the process, as Sophia also brought up, like, you'll meet other people. You'll grow that tribe of yours, and you will expand yourself as a human being, perhaps share with other people like we do here today with each other, learn and grow, and it just becomes this amazing life. But that huge, wonderful expanse of experience and love and growth will never be there if we're still stuck in that little bubble that we were talking about before. So again, yeah, I completely am on board with what you guys were sharing, and it's a tough process though, isn't it? It's so hard to break out of those old habits and old perspectives, but you take a few moments to pay attention. um, you see so much, and you appreciate what you have, and have the skills that you already have, perspectives you already have. Maybe that's something that you never realized, and your happiness comes from there. Just simple appreciation of the self. Um, each and every one of you have so many wonderful perspectives and skills that you guys share. Why not appreciate that, right? Sophia, you wanted to say something? I definitely agree that life really is a gift, and we really do have everything that we need. All the ingredients are here in front of us, and we we just need to actually see them. Be mindful, take the time, slow down, and see that we have everything we need to be happy. Absolutely right. And I agree with what Sophia said. We have all the ingredients with us. We just don't always see it, and we're always looking outwards to this, that, and everything else. That, like, oh, I'll be happy when I have that, when I do that, or when I achieve this. But yeah, having fun with life, not taking things so seriously, being open minded, understanding that we're all interconnected, one way or the other, not holding on so tightly to perspectives and to beliefs, and to, what I want to do and what I'm all about. Having that open mindedness, the flexibility, the compassion, the self compassion, which is so important, and just being free. Life ebbs and flows. Perspectives should ebb and flow too. We should be, again, like bamboo, swaying with the wind. We don't need to be that old tree that stands tall and refuses to change but gets knocked down when there's a storm. You want to be able to bend, and sway and move with the times. Just appreciate the process. Again, when you're going from Toronto to Montreal, you want to enjoy that car ride. You want to appreciate the scenery, appreciate the time that you have with the people in the car. If you're alone, appreciate the fact that you're functioning and able to drive. It's those little things in life. Appreciate the fact that you have the time to go and travel, for whatever the reason you're going to Montreal for, or whatever it is. Just taking that time to slow down and just appreciate. Happiness is such a fleeting thing, and yet it's such a simple thing. And breaking that bubble around us and being open to the world, to yourself, to others, just takes a weight off your shoulders, and it really grounds you and frees you at the same time. It's got this beautiful dual nature to it, where you're grounded because you see the here and now, but you're free because you're not holding on to it. You're not defining yourself by your perspectives and your wants and your needs. You're only human. And I don't say that as an, oh, you're only human. No, I say that in the most appreciative and awe-filled way, that being human and having that higher level of thinking and ability to see things from other people's perspectives, and that empathy, that compassion, all those beautiful things that make us human are so important, but we miss all of it when we're so distracted by the world. So take the time again just to slow it down. Bring in that breathing, bring in those moments, the mountain, practicing the mountain, filling yourself with that gladdened feeling and being able to share that with other people. Those are those little moments of what makes us human and what connects us. And ultimately, what brings you those little moments of happiness. At least from my perspective. Perhaps you may have a different one. But something to think about for sure. And Sonder, a beautiful term. Really, really happy I got the chance to share it with you guys. And I hope that you think about it and see how it applies to yourself. So yeah, I hope this was interesting. I hope the conversation was enlightening in some way. Get those creative juices flowing. And thank you to all of you guys who shared your perspectives on things. I always appreciate it very much. But again, yeah, we did wrap up happiness for the month. It's been a great month. I really enjoyed it. But I hope you think about things. I hope you think about the different stages that we discussed. And I hope you keep thinking about it, because happiness is something that will change always. As we age, our perspectives on happiness will change too. So never stop thinking about it. But as always, thank you for joining. Thank you for your time. And I hope you have a wonderful, stress-free day. Thanks a lot to everybody.